Okay, we're back with Kitus Cooks in the kitchen. Ready to go today. We are making a chicken pot pie, classic fall dish that can actually go into the winter too, and even in the spring if it's a cold spring. So feel free to make this all year long. It's a great dish that you can make them ahead of time and freeze them, or you can make it and cook it right then, okay? So we're gonna start with, right now, we're gonna make the fillings, okay? So we're gonna start with an onion. So I'm gonna trim that onion, both ends off. I'm gonna cut in half, and that's when we peel it. Don't peel the onion when it's whole. Promise me that. If you can promise me anything, promise me that, okay? Just like that. I'm gonna get my compost pile going today. Notice this is a clever little tool. It has a flat edge. You can just butt it up there and just scrape everything in. Somebody gave that to me a number of years ago. I love it. It's a good tool. Okay, so the onion we're just going to chop up. I'm going to go through, do slices all the way down. Then we want to dice it, so I turn it. No reason to pick it up. We just turn it. And we go back the other way, and we get a very nice dice. So what we're going to try and do is keep the same size dice for all of our vegetables we're making today, okay? So we'll start with our onion. I'm going to use a whole onion. I think the recipe calls for less, but I'm a rule breaker. Living on the edge. Okay, so we got all this onion chopped up. So the next thing I'm going to do is to get the filling started, we have to make a roux. So a roux, if you remember, is butter and flour.
It's a mixture of butter and flour.
I love that. It's a mixture of butter and flour. Perfect. So I'm going to take 1/4 cup of butter. So this block here, this is a 1 pound block of butter. And it is one block that makes 2 cups. So now I have 2 cups. And so I want 1/4 cup. So I'll take 1 of the cups and I'll cut it in half. So now we have 2 halves, and then half of one of the halves makes 1/4 cup. Quick math, huh? Pretty quick with my math. My parents would be so proud. I hope they get to watch this one day. I'm going to start melting that. I have the fire on low. Don't want to have it too high. It'll burn the butter. We don't want a brown butter for this. I'm going to get my flour ready. We're going to need 1/4 cup of flour. But before we put the flour in, I'm going to saute the onions in this. So when we make this, we're going to have kind of an oniony roux, okay? Which is kind of cool. It's a different type of roux than we're used to making. Usually when we make our roux, we make just butter and flour. But here we're adding some onion to it, okay? And what that enables us to do, that cooks the onion, gets the onion translucent, gets some good flavor out of it. So we'll be all ready to go. And then we can add all of our vegetables in there, okay? So I'll just... Exactly. I'm sauteing the onion in the butter, and in a few minutes when I feel that it's sauteed well enough, then I will go ahead and add the flour to it. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut up some celery. So celery you can do in different ways. If you want, you could just chop it this way. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a couple pieces. I'm going to wipe this off. That came kind of a funky looking celery head here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut through lengthwise like this. All right, so first we have celery sticks, and then our celery sticks turn into cubed celery. All right, which is diced celery. And don't throw away those, don't throw away these buds. There's so much flavor in there, and that goes really well in what we're making. So there we go. I think that will be enough celery to start with. I'll take a look over here. I'm going to stir my onion. That's such a nice smell. Whether morning, noon, or night, it smells so good when you add onion to butter. Okay, next thing I'm doing, I have my flour, so I'm working on my roux, I'm working on my vegetables. So sprinkle the flour in slowly, okay? Don't go crazy. Do a little bit at a time. You don't want it to seize up and turn into clumps of roux, okay? So I've got a nice mixture. Now my onions are coated in flour. The roux is ready. So what I'll do now is I'm going to add my liquid to this. So I'm going to do, let's see, I think this is, how much is this? Is that a quart? So that's 4 cups. We're going to do 4 cups of water. And you can, what this calls for is chicken broth. And so what we're going to do, if you want, you can buy chicken broth already made. You can make your own chicken broth. Or we're actually going to add a little bit of a product. Chicken broth magic, I call it. And we'll just add about a teaspoon of this into there. We don't want too much.
I've used it before.
Yep, there we go. So I'm just going to add in there, and it will slowly start to melt into the liquid, and it will turn into a broth. So very simple, really quick and easy. If you're in a hurry, which you should never be if you're in the kitchen, you should always be there to enjoy yourself. So that's going to start cooking. It's going to start thickening up. In the meantime, I'm going to finish cutting up my other vegetables so we can add these flavors to it. So I'm going to peel a carrot. And remember how nice and relaxing peeling a carrot is? It's very zen. Zen master chef. There we go. I feel so good. I'm going to cut off both ends. And once again, I'll scrape all these things with the back of my knife, not the front of my knife, but the back, not the blade. I'm going to make it easy to cut the carrot, I'm going to cut it in half first. And then we have a rolling carrot, which we don't want. It's like a rolling blackout. So we put the carrot, we cut off one end of it, and now it won't roll around. Okay, and I'm going to cut through this way. And then we'll just flip it on its side, and we can make carrot sticks. So we always start with carrot. When we're dicing, we make sticks, so celery sticks or carrot sticks. And we turn them, and then we make a dice. All right? Nice and simple. So all you can see, all these dices are about the same size. So when they go into our filling, it's going to have a very consistent look to it the whole time. Okay? So here I go. I'm going to make carrot sticks. Carrot sticks. Carrot sticks. That could get really annoying. Okay? And then we'll go this way and we'll dice our carrots, all right? From carrot sticks to carrot dice. Cracking myself up. Okay, so we have those ready. And what I think I'll do, I'll just bring them over and let's go ahead and add them to our filling. Nice like that. I'm going to turn it up a little higher. I'm going to give it a stir. Remember, always stir. Every now and then, just take a look at it. Go in there, give it a quick stir. And then go back to what you're doing. Okay, next thing I do, I'm going to do my potatoes. So once again, potatoes are rolling blackout. So we cut off one end so it's not going to roll around. And I'm going to cut through this way. So first thing we're going to make are French fries, correct? So we slice it this way. So now we have a French fry. And notice once again, I turn it. I don't pick it up. I turn it and it all stays the same. And we cut through like this, and now we have diced potato. Really simple. It's just always remembering to slice it, get your French fry or your potato stick, and then turn it, and you've got your dice. Really simple. All right, and this last piece, the end piece we have, I'm just going to finish that too. Okay, so we're set with that. I'm going to wait till this comes to a boil, then I'll add those. And now I'm going to add some seasoning. So in this recipe, it calls for some thyme. If you have fresh thyme, use it. Here I have some dry thyme. So thyme can be very strong, so really be careful when you add it. So I'm just going to start with like 1/8 of a teaspoon. And then if I feel like it needs some, I will come back and add some later. But thyme can really overpower a recipe. Actually, any herb can do that. If you put too much rosemary, you'll say, "Oh, I wanted a nice chicken pot pie, not a rosemary pie," right? Time's the same way. Okay, so we got these ready. Let me check my recipe. So now I grab my recipe and I go through it. So I got my potatoes diced, I diced my carrots, I diced my celery, my butter's in there, my onions are in there, my flour's in there. Ask for salt. So I'm going to wait a little while to add the salt, just because we added the chicken base to it, and I don't know how salty that might be. So we'll add salt in a little while. I got my thyme in there, our peppers in there. Not yet. Tricked you. Okay, I've got my chicken broth. I'm going to add a little bit of milk. Let's see. I'm going to do about a cup of milk into here. And so it's going to be, it's not just going to be chickeny, it's going to be creamy, milky and creamy, okay? So it's starting to boil in there. It's looking really nice. Okay, last thing we're going to get ready now is very end I'm going to throw in some peas. And you can throw in some corn if you want to. We're just going to do peas today at the end. So I'm going to add my potatoes right now. And so what should be happening in here, this should be boiling, but should also be thickening it up. And what we want, if it doesn't thicken up as much as we want to, we'll make a little more roux and add it to it. What we want is when we cook this, we want like a really thick, like kind of I'm trying to compare it to something. Slime. When you make slime at home, it's like that. It's kind of gooey and stuff. That's kind of how we want to get this, okay? So we're going to cook that a little bit more, and I'll keep checking it. If I feel like we need to add some more roux, we can do that. Or if you don't want to take the time to make roux, you can take a little cornstarch, mix it with water, and add some, and that will thicken it also, okay? That's another way. If you want to make this gluten-free, then use cornstarch instead of this roux, okay? So we got that going. Oh yeah. For some reason Rain, you got dropped. Come in, join us. Okay, and the last thing I'm going to do here is I've got some chicken, and I'm using chicken thigh. And I'm not going to put a whole bunch of chicken in there. I'm just going to put in about a cup. So what I'm going to do is, you see this chicken, it's chicken thigh, it's boneless, skinless, and it's also a little bit frozen. It's like partially frozen. And that's the best time to cut chicken, okay? It's not like gooey, it's not like slimy, it's just a perfect time to cut chicken. So I'm going down, making chicken strips. Like everything's always the same. We make strips and then we dice it, okay? So we got our strips, and then I'm going to turn it. And if I look at them, if they're too thick, then I'm going to cut them this way, okay? And that will give us a perfect dice, all right? If you could, in this recipe, if you can boil like a whole chicken ahead of time, and that way you'll get chicken broth, and then you'll have the cooked chicken, and you'll just pick the chicken off the bones and dice it up. It won't look like this, but it will look actually a lot more homemade, okay? So here we go. I got all my chicken. Really simple, quick and easy. I'm going to add my chicken to my sauce here. And make sure you always have a nice towel, not a wet towel, but a dry towel anytime you pick up a hot pan, okay? A wet towel, if you use a wet towel, the heat goes right through that towel and it'll burn your hand, okay? So you don't want that. Don't put chicken scraps or meat scraps ever in your compost either. That's a no-no, okay? So I have this will have to go to the dishwasher because it's been touched by chicken. So will my knife, so we don't want to cross-contaminate. That's really important, what I just did, washing your hands, getting rid of that chicken. You don't want to cross-contaminate. You could really get sick if you do those types of things, if you don't do those types of things. I'm looking at my sauce here. It's not thickening up quite as much as I want to, so what I'm going to do is while it's on here, I will make a little more roux. And the cool thing about roux is when you make it, if you have extra, you can save it. Just put it in a container in the refrigerator. You've got it, okay? You don't have to worry about, well, I've got too much roux. Well, it's usable down the road, okay? So there's no reason not to. So I'll do another 1/4 cup. And we'll just start making that, and we'll be able to thicken. I will now, with a spoon, I'm going to go in there and give a taste to that sauce and see what I think. It's hot. It's going to need salt and pepper, which we hadn't put in yet, which is perfect. Keep our salt and pepper up above so it's always ready. Don't put it in a glass container. Anything that you keep up here, you want to keep in a metal container so it won't break. If it falls in, you can pull it out. You know, it would probably be too salty or peppery at that point, but at least you're not going to break glass into it, okay? Oh, so next thing, okay, I'm watching my roux. I've got my sauce is going nice. I'm going to turn it down a little bit until the roux is ready. It smells so good. My cameraman here, he's hungry, I can tell. He doesn't come in yesterday, and he comes here hungry, ready to eat. I like that. Okay, so next thing I'm going to do, oh, scratch my eye. I'm going to make our chicken pot pie. So you can make it any type of dish you want it to, okay? I'm going to do it in a pie tin, but if you have like a little, like a Pyrex baking dish, go ahead and try using that, okay? You can do it in any type of dish you want to. I've got no rules in this kitchen. It's up to you to make it exciting and cool. Okay, so my roux, I'm going to add about a 1/4 cup of flour into that. And see, I'm doing it by sight, which is okay because I've done it so many times. If you're not feeling confident, what we're trying to do, we're trying to get it to the point that it looks like wet sand. And so I'm not going to add all of the flour I have in here. I'm going to do a little bit at a time, little by little, until it gets to that point where you say, now that looks like good sandcastle sand right there. I let it cook a tiny bit just to cook out flavor of the flour. Then I'm going to add some. But instead of adding it all, I do a little bit at a time. Reason being, anybody know? If you add it all and it gets too thick, you've kind of defeated your whole purpose of what you were doing. So we want to go slow. Let's see, I forget how I turn that down. It's not quite where I want it yet. And that's perfect because that means I can add some more. If I'd added too much, I couldn't take it out. You'd have to add a little more liquid to it, and it just changes everything. Okay, not quite as thick as I want it, so, I think we're almost there. This time I think we got it. Nice. And by now, everything in there should be cooking really well. The potatoes are probably almost all the way cooked. The chicken's probably, because we diced it really small, it's about ready. And they don't have to be cooked all the way because we're going to bake them also. So if they're not quite ready, they're going to keep cooking, okay, when we put them in the oven. I'm going to add some green peas to this. You can add any type of vegetable you like, really. I would like to put okra in here, but nobody likes okra but me, turns out. I'm the one person on earth that loves okra. No, there's more than me. Okay, so that's nice. I'm going to show you the consistency now. I'll grab a spoon. And what we're trying to do is trying to get where the sauce coats the back of the spoon, and that's perfect. Okay, so that's going to be a nice filling for our chicken pot pie. I'll put this here, get it out of my way. I'm just going to let that continue cooking really low. It will thicken a little bit more. And while we're waiting, I'm going to go ahead and roll out some pie dough. And the way we do this, now you can do it two ways. You don't have to do a bottom if you don't want to. That's when you go to like grocery outlet and you buy a chicken pot pie, you're getting ghetto pie. They don't do the bottom, they just do the top. We love grocery outlet, I'm kidding you. Gotta start getting me some grocery outlet swag. Okay, so I made some pie dough ahead of time. So my favorite pie dough is Crisco, flour, salt, and cold water. And that's what this one is, okay? So I made this ahead of time so you wouldn't have to watch me make pie dough again. I put it into a ball shape and I start pressing it out. I get it to the shape I want it. And I've got my French rolling pin here, and I start rolling it out. And what I want to do, I want to get it so it will be larger than my pie shell. And you can do that to test it, see where you're at, how much more you need to go. We're trying to get our pie dough to about 1/8 of an inch thick. Okay, that's what we want, 1/8 of an inch thick. Simple as that. Okay, I think that's going to be just about right. See how I can pick it up and move it around? You can stretch it a little bit. Don't be too crazy with it, but you can, a good pie dough stretches, it's bendable, pliable, all those words, a bowl, and it's perfect for our pie. Okay, so of course, once again, I still have forgot to buy pan spray. Every time I go to the store, it's not on my list of things to buy, and so I don't buy it. Silly me. Put a little bit of oil on the bottom, get it on the sides. All right, you can do this. It's probably better to use like a paper towel or a pastry brush, but I break all rules. That's how I do it in the kitchen, okay? So now I'm gonna pick up my pie dough, I fold it in half, I put it in there right like that. And what we're looking for some overhang, exactly what we have. We're gonna push it in so we get it all the way to the corners. And we're not gonna par bake this one, okay? Because what we do is we're gonna put some more pastry on the top and then roll and flute the edges from the top, okay? So what I'll do is I'm just gonna cut off, I just want enough, oops, look what I did. Silly me. Okay, so what I wanna do, I don't want a ton of pastry dough hanging down, so I'm gonna get it so the dough is not touching the countertop, okay? And then once we roll the dough with the other piece, that will just be the right amount. You don't want a big clump of crust on the edge, okay? I mean, some people love crust, but I don't love it that much. I like just around the right amount of crust. Everything has to complement each other, okay? If you have too much crust and not enough filling, then you have a really dry pie. That kind of rhymes, huh? I'm a rapper. So in this case, we're not going to do too much crust. We're going to fill it. We're going to do a little topping with this. It's going to be perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and roll this out now, and then we'll fill the pie tin with our filling, okay? And what will happen, you'll see once we get to that point, there's going to be extra pie filling, which is great, because then you can use it later. You could actually make chicken and dumplings, which is another class down the road, okay? So what I'm doing, I'm rolling this pie dough out the exact same way I did the other piece. This one, if you noticed, it was a little bit smaller. So the bottom piece, you're going to use more pie dough. How many times have I said pie dough today? Oh my God, I just keep saying it, pie dough. It's starting to sound like Play-Doh. Okay, I've almost got it right. And so the way you measure this now is you obviously probably have another one of these. You just put it over the top and you say, good. That's what I say to myself. I say, good. Okay, so what I want enough that it will cover the top. It's not going to be heaping because it's liquid. So it's going to come right about to the top. So we just want enough to cover the top. So what I'll do now, probably easier if you used a pair of scissors or a pizza cutter. Is really good for this. But I'll trim around this. Okay. Yeah, I think a pizza cutter would be much better. This looks a little sketchy the way I'm doing it. But you know what? I've been called sketchy before. Won't be the last time. Okay, so I got my pie dough's ready, my filling's ready. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to put my filling right there. I say sit. And then I'm going to use to start, I'm going to use a slotted spoon just to make sure I get a lot of product in there, okay? There is quite a bit of liquid in here, and so we don't want to fill it up with all that liquid. We want to get a lot of goods. And then with this extra bit we have here, you can go ahead and make chicken and dumplings. You can make a soup with that. You just a chicken soup, all types of things. Or you can keep making more chicken pot pies, okay, and freeze them. All right, so now I'm not going to fold this in half. I'm just going to bring it over here. I know it's the right size because I use this cutout. We lay it right on top. And then what I'll do now So I'll try and let you see. I'm going to fold over, fold under, I mean, all the way around. Okay, and what we really want to make sure is that we get it sealed, okay? If it doesn't seal, there's going to be some of your juice is going to be leaking out of this, okay? So I just want to make sure all the way around I seal it nicely. Just like that. Exactly. You're right, Cameron. Just like making a pumpkin pie, but with chicken. There we go. Yep. A lot like a quiche or an apple pie, okay? And now, yep. Pie in your eye. Pie in the sky, okay? Now, you think, how do I want to do like a flute like this, or something else you could do? I've got a fork here. I did. Somebody must have broken in last night and stolen my forks. Not really, I'm kidding. Okay, so what I'll do, I think I'll just go ahead and do a flute like this all the way around. Okay, so remember how we do it. I move my thumb to the last place indentation, and then we get the same look all the way around, okay? And when the filling's hot like this, it makes the dough a little bit sticky. So that's why I think a flute would be, a fork might work a little bit better for this. Okay, so now it's all sealed up and it's going to go in the oven. Last thing we could do is, if we wanted to, we could roll out this little bit of dough we had left. And then if you have some cutouts, any kind of like, cutouts, what do you call them? Cookie cutters, there we go. Roll this out and you could cut some out and then just use them to spice up the top a bit. So this one, I'll do, let me see, cookie cutter. Let's see. See, sometimes you have to think on your feet. So I'll just do some rounds, okay? Nothing too exciting, but rounds are kind of exciting. Okay, and so to make them stick, what I'm going to make is a little bit of egg wash. And I know I have eggs, I know I have wash. So we're set to go. 1 egg in there. And we're going to add a little bit of water to that. And we'll mix it up. Oh, I'm starting to make a big mess. And my pastry brush. Oh, chef, silly chef. Thought I was ready today. And we're just going to take our pastry brush, brush that egg wash all over it. That gives it a nice kind of a glazy finish. And also what it does, if we're going to put on some accoutrements, as we say, this will help it stick on there, almost like a glue. So I'll put one there. I'll put one here. Put one there, okay. And lots of times, like if it's somebody's birthday, you could actually cut out some strands of these, and then you could write the person's name, okay? This one, I'll just throw a couple of these on there. Really for no apparent. What's that?
Or people bring pies in Thanksgiving.
Yep. Yeah, this is actually a great way to finish, like when you're done with Thanksgiving and you have extra leftover turkey, you can make a turkey pot pie. Okay? Really, I have no idea what this design is, but I'm just showing you. Whoa, that just looks horrible. But having a little extra dough on top of this thing, okay? So that's actually what I say, that's those are the 3 moons of Saturn, and they're surrounded by puff clouds. It's as good as I could get. All right, so this is going to go in the oven. Oh, one last thing, we need to make sure we pierce it a little bit on top with a fork, or you can do a knife. What that's going to do, that's going to vent some of the steam, okay, because there's going to be a lot of steam puffing up out of there, okay? Simple as that. It's going to go in the oven. It's probably going to take 45 minutes to an hour. It's going to be nice and brown on top. The interior is already really hot, So it's all going to cook very nicely. And you're going to pull it out of the oven. You're going to wait a good 10 or 15 minutes before anybody cuts into it, because it needs to set, it needs to finish, and you don't dig in it right away, or you can if you want, but it'll just make a big mess. And I love serving this with coleslaw. Love coleslaw. So that will be one of our next lessons, coleslaw. I'm going to put this on a cookie sheet or on a pizza pan, put it in the oven, because inevitably some stuff is going to spill out and you don't want to mess up your oven. Okay? So remember, get back in the kitchen, sharpen your knives, and keep on cooking.